Good morning, everyone. Hello from the other side, from the host to the guest. Thank you for joining us today to explore about embracing emotions. So before I begin, we just had a beautiful guided meditation by Mrinalini. So now take a moment to check in with yourself. What are you feeling right now? And add that response to the chat. It could be a strong emotion or something very subtle, perhaps a sense of peace, clarity, or even restlessness. Whatever it is, just answer in the chat. There's no right or wrong answer. Whatever you're feeling right now. Divya says calm, okay? Venkat, peace. So, embracing emotions. Emotions are very energetic. Kalpana says very energetic, relaxed, tight, okay, tired, okay, stressed about school, okay. So we notice that we are all feeling different emotions, even though we just came out of meditation. It doesn't mean that all of us will feel instant relaxation, and that's totally normal, totally normal. But that doesn't mean meditation is not working. So we are going to explore that today. Okay. So emotions are an inseparable part of our daily lives. From the moment we wake up to the time we go to sleep, we experience a constant flow of emotions: joy, frustration, excitement, anxiety, love, sadness, and everything in between. But did you ever wonder if these emotions are just fleeting feelings, or do they hold deeper significance in our well being? So now, if I look at the chat, some of you have felt peaceful and relaxed, some were neutral, and some may have noticed emotions like feeling tired and anxiety about school or your day ahead are still lingering around. What this shows us is that emotions don't disappear, they just shift, they evolve, and sometimes stay underneath the surface. And that's completely normal and natural, nothing to be worried about. So, research suggests that an average person experiences many distinct emotions through the day, some lasting just few seconds, and others persisting for hours, and sometimes even to the next day, to the next week, for many years. We carry that emotional body inside of us. And our ability to process and regulate these emotions that we experience on a daily basis directly, not even indirectly, directly impacts our mental health, relationships, and even our physical well being. So, what exactly are emotions? Emotions are just the brain's way of interpreting and responding to stimuli, to situations. It could be anything, to a circumstance, to a person, to something you're experiencing. It's just a way of responding, interpreting and responding to that situation or stimuli. So they are a combination of thoughts, psychological reactions, physiological reaction, and behaviors designed to help us navigate through this world that we are in. For example, when we feel fear, our heartbeat races, our muscles tense, and the brain signals us to either fight or flee or freeze. As we looked at it yesterday from Elina's speech on thoughts, she mentioned because the human ancestral, it's from the Stone Age, where humans were fighting with danger, immediate danger. But somewhere over the generations, over thousands, hundreds of years, that's still a part of our psyche. So we do experience fear, but now we do experience where it's not needed, because none of us are in immediate physical danger at most times. So basic emotions like happiness, sadness, fear, anger, surprise, and disgust. These are all basic emotions that we go through. And then there are some complex emotions like shame, pride, that emerge from our thoughts and social conditioning. We will explore more in depth about social conditioning and where that fear sprouts from in our ego session. That's towards the end of our series. But for today, let's stick to the basic emotions that we experience on a day-to-day basis. So, coming to some scientific research, a study from UC Berkeley, California, has found that emotions are not just psychological, but also have a profound impact on our physical health. For instance, chronic negative emotions are linked to heart disease, weakened immunity, and digestive issues. What is emotion? The word emotion, the word E, the letter E in emotion is energy. Emotion is nothing but energy in motion. The E stands for energy. So when that energy gets trapped in the body, when it's not processed and when it persists for a long time in our physical body, it manifests as a physical ailment, as a physical disease. No matter how the medication or treatment we take, when the root cause of healing that emotional body that's trapped within does not happen, healing doesn't happen. So the World Health Organization reports that emotional dysregulation is a major contributor to stress and anxiety and depression, affecting over more than 280 million people worldwide. And one of the main reasons for depression in the world today is the inability to embrace emotions. As simple as that. Most of us either suppress them, or we do not know how to handle them, or let them take control over ourselves because we haven't been taught about emotions. We did not learn about it in school. Nobody told us how to process, at least to most of us, how to process emotions in a healthy way. So as we do not know how to regulate or process these emotions, we do not know what to do with them when we experience a gush of them. And that's the main reason for depression in today's time. So there's a connection between thoughts and emotions. Again, going back to the session from Elena yesterday, we heard that thoughts give feelings, and feelings are nothing but emotional reactions. So thoughts and emotions are very, very closely related. They're intertwined. They're very linked. Before an emotion even arises, there is often a thought behind. Whether you know it or not, whether you're unconscious or conscious, there is always a thought that triggers it. So our thoughts act as the root cause for many emotions. The same situation can trigger different emotions based on the thought that we associate with it. For instance, imagine there are two people waiting for a friend who is running late. Okay, the person is running late. The person A thinks, okay, maybe something may have happened to him. I hope they're okay, him or her. I hope they're okay. So what is this person feeling here? What emotion is this person experiencing? They feel concern for the person who's running late. Now think about the other person. Person B thinks, they don't respect my time. This is so rude. What is this person feeling here? They are experiencing anger. It's the same situation. Both of them are waiting for a person who's running late, but they're reacting differently because the thought that was behind that emotion is different. One of them was like, maybe something had happened. They're feeling a sense of fear. There's a sense of fear behind that. And the other one has anger. So more scientific insight is that studies in cognitive neuroscience show that our thoughts influence the release of neurotransmitters, which in turn create emotions. So negative thought patterns, like a stream of negative thought patterns that we hold on to, like I'm not good enough, I cannot do this, I'm always a failure, things don't work out for me. All these are negative thought patterns. These can lead to chronic stress. While positive thought patterns, when we rewire those thought patterns and change the way we think about situations or people, we can enhance our emotional well-being and also our relationships. So what's the key takeaway here? Our thoughts shape our emotions. If you want to regulate emotions effectively, we need to become aware of the thoughts that create them. And we all know how we can become aware of our thoughts. We've been learning ever since the series started. And that is where meditation comes in. Okay? So, as I mentioned earlier, and also in my promo yesterday, that most of us handle emotions in two ways. One, we either suppress them, we don't feel the emotion, we suppress them. And the second, we let emotion take over us. Like we become the emotion. So many of us have been taught to stay strong. So what does the phrase "stay strong" mean? I would like to know from the chat. Please put your answers. What do you mean if you're facing a difficult person or a difficult boss at work or a difficult situation or challenge in your life? What does it mean to you when somebody says "stay strong"? So the phrase "stay strong" has been translated into suppressing emotions by most of it. Yes, Divya says face it. But most of us believe that we face it by suppressing that emotion that we are feeling. But what happens when we suppress or bottle these emotions up? Emotional suppression leads to stress accumulation, triggering the release of cortisol, which is the stress hormone in the body. And over time, the more we do it, the more emotional suppression takes place. There is an increased risk of high blood pressure, heart disease, sleep disorders, and even weakened immunity. Our immunity gets hit the most when we have chronic suppression of emotions. So studies also show that repressed emotions can manifest, as I said, as physical symptoms such as headaches, stomach issues, muscle tension. So a study from Harvard University found that people who habitually suppress emotions have a 40% higher risk of premature end of life and are more likely to develop chronic diseases like diabetes and cardiovascular issues. So imagine a person who is, or you may be one of them, or you know someone like this who constantly suppresses their frustration at work. They're not communicating what their issue is. They're just constantly suppressing that frustration they have at work. And over time, that bottled up stress might lead to sudden emotional outbursts at home on their family members. Chronic fatigue, they're always tired, exhausted. There is an unexplainable exhaustion in the body, or even depression that often leads to depression. What this does, it not only impacts your overall well-being, but it also impacts our relationships with other people. This is the first scenario where we suppress emotions. Now let us look at the other one, where emotions control us, where they take over us. See, so on the other hand, letting emotions control us can be equally harmful. Over-identifying with emotions can lead to impulsive reaction, poor decision-making, and again, strained relationships. Because we react without processing emotions. We just feel an emotion and we instantly take an action on that. We just react, we become that emotion. We often act out of fear, anger, or stress rather than clarity. So studies from the American Psychological Association show that unchecked emotional reactions such as chronic anger, anxiety, increase activity in the amygdala, the fear center of the brain, making it harder to regulate emotions over time. It becomes like your second nature because we do not know that there is something called processing emotion that exists. We just act out of it. We snap out of it. We cannot snap out of the emotion. We just become it. So there's another study from Stanford University that found that individuals with high emotional reactivity often experience higher levels of stress, obviously, and they have higher conflicts in relationships and even workplace burnout. I've been there. This is my personal story. Until a few years ago, before I got into practicing mindfulness or meditation, I used to have sudden emotional outbursts, like out of nowhere, sudden emotional outbursts, which never made me feel good in the body or in the mind. And it also strained my relationships with others. So imagine someone who is always angry and lashes out at people. Instead of resolving the issue, they push people away, leading to loneliness and increased emotional distress. So we've seen the two ways we don't process emotions properly. So how can we learn to process these emotions in a healthy way? So what's the solution? If suppressing emotion is unhealthy and letting them take over is equally damaging, how do we find that balance? So this is where meditation comes in. But before that, a first important thing to understand about emotions is to recognize emotion as a separate entity outside of you. We need to understand that emotion is not me. When we experience emotion, I'm experiencing anger, I'm experiencing stress. I am not an angry person. I am not an anxious person. I am just experiencing anger. I'm just experiencing an emotion. I am just experiencing a joyful moment. I'm experiencing an anxious moment. That is the basic fundamental first step, is to understand that emotion is not me. We can separate ourselves from the emotion. So how can you do this? How can you achieve this? Is simply naming that emotion, simply labeling that emotion. You're just recognizing and labeling that emotion rather than becoming the emotion. I am frustrated. Don't say that. I feel frustrated. I feel frustration. I'm experiencing frustration. It reduces the intensity. That immediate labeling, that immediate recognition of that emotion reduces that intensity of energy that you feel within the body. So this will help you avoid identification with that emotion, as over-identification with an emotion creates again a thought pattern. As I said, I am an angry person. I'm always angry. I'm always frustrated. I'm depressed. We become it. While in reality, emotion is just a chemical reaction that takes place, and we can separate ourselves from it. So instead, when you get used to recognizing and labeling emotions, like I'm feeling anger right now, we are not owning the emotion. You're just acknowledging it and labeling it, and label the thoughts and emotions, not yourself. Okay. Then understand the trigger. The second aspect of this is to understand the trigger by self-inquiry, asking yourself, what caused this emotion? Recognize the root. Recognizing the root often helps us respond better. Every emotion has an underlying meaning or message. Emotions are not bad. That's the whole point of embracing. There is no good emotion, bad emotion. We classify them as negative and positive because of the vibration they hold, the energy they hold. But every emotion is valid. Every emotion that we experience has a meaning or a message or underlying message. All we have to do is embrace it and try to understand what it's trying to teach us. Where can we get better? That's the whole point of emotions. They're excellent teachers. Along with challenges and challenging times in your life, emotions are your next best teachers. For instance, if you are feeling angry continuously, it means anger comes when we feel something that feels unfair or violated. So ask yourself, what caused this emotion? What is causing anger in me? A healthy way to process, again, is meditation. I'll explain why meditation is the most healthy way to process and embrace emotions in just a bit, in a minute. But a healthy way to process is to meditate and to work on understanding that you need to communicate your boundaries better, maybe. That's why you feel violated and anger is being raised. Maybe you have to assert your boundary a little better rather than being aggressive or reactive to that situation or the person. Imagine you're experiencing fear. There's fear within. Fear is nothing but it's a potential threat. But unless we are in a situation where there's an immediate potential threat to our physical body or environment, most of the other fears are an illusion of the mind. Again, it goes back to ego, which we'll cover later. So it keeps us alert to danger, whether physical or emotional. So whenever you are experiencing fear, ask yourself, is this real? In this moment, usually it's fear of the future. That's how we experience fear, most of us. Fear of the future. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if I can't sustain it? What if I can't do it? Many ifs and buts around the future. That's not real. So get back to the present moment. Take a few minutes to meditate. Focus on the breath. You will be grounded to the present moment, and the fear automatically vanishes. So ask yourself, is this real, or maybe you moved to a new city and you're getting accustomed. So there are different sort of fears that we experience. So ask yourself, maybe this is just a discomfort from growth. It's a valid fear. It's trying to teach us something. So express that emotion that you're feeling healthily. First and foremost is meditation. Sit quietly for a few minutes. Take deep breathing techniques also help, especially with anxiety and stress, because our heartbeat raises and we become sweaty. It's different for different people. We have different reactions, but breath work and meditation should be your immediate rescuers for any extreme sort of emotion, because it helps us stay grounded and come back to the present, to what the true reality is. Because most of the fear that we experience comes from different things that we imagine in our minds. So another healthy way to express is a healthy way to process emotion is to express it very healthily, not lash out of anger or just walk out of the room, slash a door on the person you love and just stay by yourself. That's not a healthy way. Maybe you take a minute or two to process it. Understand that you're experiencing some discomfort in the body, but that doesn't make you a bad person. Or don't label or get into that self-critical or self-judgment route. So talk about it, journal about it, engage in creative outlets like art or music. I'll tell you an example. Myself being an artist, artists thrive on emotions. There is no good or bad emotion. We thrive on emotions. We feel emotions deeply. A person who is very creative, they are creative because they feel emotions deeply. They never suppress them. And that deep emotion often brings out one of the best works. The best creative works in the world are an outcome of pain or heartbreak. You see all the top hit songs, pop songs in US are around heartbreak, grief, pain. Because these are natural. These are emotions that all of us need to go through. We have to go through. And an artist channels them very beautifully. They convert that pain that they're going, they don't suppress them, they embrace it, and they channel it, and they put it into this beautiful creation that comes out of it. They create something so powerful out of nothing. That's an excellent way to process emotions. The best movie, the best script, writers, they express someone who can elaborately explain the beauty of a woman is because they feel that beauty. Someone who can explicitly explain the pain and the readers are connecting it with so deeply is because they felt that pain and they're putting that into words. So that's another healthy way. Creative outlets are excellent ways to express emotions healthily. Last but not the least is to pause before reacting. So instead of actively, becoming that emotion and acting impulsively, take a moment to breathe and gain clarity. Most of us are not used to this because we are not born with it, and we are not used to mindfulness or meditation since childhood. So it doesn't come easily to us. but it can be done and it is achievable through meditation. So this is where meditation comes in. Any emotion that you experience, just pause and understand what you're going through within. Respond over react. That is the answer to most of our relationship problems. So we lash out on people that we love due to that argument or whatever conflict we are undergoing. But if we take a moment to pause, we will be in a position to communicate or discuss in a better way, in a more loving way, in a compassionate way, over getting into the self-blame and blame game sort of a conversation. So meditation, the process of meditation, as you're seeing, you're focusing on the breath. And we say that whatever thoughts come, let them come. Whatever emotions you're feeling, let them come. Just observe them. Don't engage with those thoughts or emotions and come back to the breath. So the more you do it, the more you practice that muscle of coming back to the breath, that practice of coming back to the breath builds that muscle of pausing or recognizing. The first step is always awareness for healing or anything. We have to become aware of the thought, aware of the emotion. Okay, I have a thought. Okay, I have an emotion. Some thought triggered this emotion. That's it. We're not going to engage with it during meditation. We don't become the emotion. We don't become those thoughts. We just come back to the breath, right? So meditation helps us become the observers of our emotions rather than being consumed by them. And that's exactly what pausing before reacting means. And it's like the more you meditate over months, over weeks, over years, you notice that it becomes your second nature. You're just very peaceful in the body. You don't feel any reactions. You experience the emotion. You don't suppress them, but you identify it. You don't engage with it. I mean, you clearly know that emotion is not me. I'm experiencing anger right now. The person's outside of opposite to me said something. They triggered something in me. I have to ask myself, what is it in me that got triggered? Right? So it helps with the healing process. So meditation also calms the amygdala, the fear center of the brain, which by reducing emotional activity. And it strengthens the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for emotional regulation and decision making. So when we are able to be so steady and pause, we also take better decisions. We don't take impulsive decisions. Constantly being on the run, taking decisions, not pausing, is also an emotional reactivity. It's a suppressed emotional reaction. So a study from Harvard Medical School also said that 8 weeks of meditation increases the gray matter in our brain, the gray matter which we learned about from the session Science of Meditation by Arvind. In the brain regions that's responsible for emotional processing and awareness. So consistent meditation practice has a lot of benefits, and emotional regulation, which is like highly essential for our physical and mental well-being, is one of the main benefits. So there's another research from Stanford that showed that mindfulness and meditation can reduce anxiety and help us to regulate emotions more effectively. Another big myth I want to bust. People think when we are meditators, we don't get emotions. We are numb. We become Buddha. Even Buddha experienced emotions. But he was the enlightened masters, or all of us who are meditators, who are have been meditating for a long time. It doesn't mean they don't go through emotions. Emotion is essential. It's like the basic fundamental of human life. We cannot be without emotions. They experience it, but they have that clear demarcation or difference between that emotion and themselves. They just embrace it. They're happy even with fear. They're happy with stress. They're happy with anxiety. Those negative emotions don't cause any physical reactions in their body. They accept it. They embrace it. There's no judgment of good and bad. They just accept everything as is. So if you're feeling overwhelmed with stress or sadness today or this following week or whenever, as part of these sessions, instead of suppressing it, sit in meditation with an intention that it's okay to feel this way. It's okay to feel this anger that I'm feeling right now. It's okay to feel the stress that I'm feeling right now. This too shall pass. Sit with that intention and keep focusing on your breath. Keep coming back to the breath. And think of your mind like the sky and your emotions like the weather. Some days it's sunny, some days it's cloudy, sometimes there's a storm, but no matter what happens, the sky itself remains untouched, right? So meditation helps us step back and watch the weather of our emotions without getting caught up in the storm. So you are the sky, and the emotions that you're experiencing are just the different weather conditions. So if you are boiling water in a pressure cooker, but never release the steam, what happens? Eventually it explodes, right? Our emotions work the same way. When we suppress them, ignoring sadness, bottling up anger, pushing away fear, they don't disappear. They build up internally and eventually show up in unhealthy ways like stress, anxiety, physical illness, or even outbursts when we least expect it. So instead of suppressing or instead of taking those emotions control over you, please do practice meditation, mindfulness, and healthy ways to process these emotions. Label those emotions, recognize the emotion, but don't become it. Don't own it. Accept the emotion as natural without self-judgment. There's nobody in this world who doesn't experience anger. Not even the most enlightened person. They experience it. But they know it's just anger. It can't have control over me, right? So the other hand, letting emotions take control over you, the storm takes over. The storm is taking over the sky, right? So when we don't regulate these emotions, we get swept away by them, and then anger turns into yelling, stress leads to burnout, sadness turns into hopelessness and depression. So practicing mindfulness and meditation in today's time, especially in the world that we live in, is highly essential. So by embracing emotions, embrace every emotion. Feel it. Don't be consumed by it. Feel it. That's the beauty of human life. The best artworks, the best creative works come because artists feel that emotion. Embrace it. Practice meditation. We don't just improve our mental health, we unlock self-awareness, resilience, and inner peace. These will become your superpowers. Nobody or no situation can influence this superpower. So for the next 24 hours, I encourage you to observe your emotions without judgment through the day. And if you're feeling extreme emotions, just take 5 to 10 minutes to pause and get back to meditation. And the more we practice, the more we grow. So let's all embrace emotions, not as weaknesses, but as beautiful guides and stepping stones for personal growth. Thank you. Another thing I wanted to mention, especially for newcomers or new meditators, sometimes during meditation, many emotions come up. We don't feel comfortable. We don't feel that peace, what we are seeking in meditation. And that's totally normal and totally natural way, because that only means that many of your suppressed emotions are just coming up to the surface now. So this is your moment to observe them and not get consumed by them. It only means that you have to meditate more often or increase your meditation time, because this will help you heal those suppressed emotions. So thank you.